Hello, Frizzle friends! I have loved many books in my life, like a lot of them. And today I want to share with you some of my favorites. And we are going to be starting with the books that I loved when I was younger and slowly working our way up through the years until now. So of course we get to start out with Slinky Malinki, about a cat that goes out and steals things at night. It rhymes, it's goofy, and it may have sparked a cat obsession later in life. Next, I jumped from Slinky Malinki to being obsessed with The Hobbit, which, yes, was quite a jump of difficulty. And you can find that story in my booktube newbie tag video, which I'll link in the footnotes. But then I slingshotted back to cats. I was obsessed with the Warrior Cats books, read them all, loved them. I don't really have much memories of them now, but I still stand by all of my favorite books in this video and would recommend them. Next obsession was Animorphs! And let me pitch this to you a little bit more thoroughly because I'm still obsessed with this series. The Animorphs books are about an alien invasion. The 𝐅𝐎𝐎𝐿𝐒 are these little slug aliens that will crawl inside your ear and mind control you. The only thing standing in their way are the Animorphs, a group of tweens that have been gifted the power to transform into animals from different aliens. They are fun books, they are goofy books, they are dark books, they are books that will make you cry and laugh, and there are so many of them to enjoy, which does mean that sometimes they swing wildly in terms of quality. Next we have 𝐂𝐕. This is about a family where when you turn 13 you get a superpower. And our main character, Mibs, gets her power in the middle of a family emergency where her dad is in the hospital, and she goes on a road trip finding herself in an attempt to also save her father in the process. It is heartfelt. I love the friendships in this book, and the message of the book of being confident in yourself and in your own talents and in your own personality was something I really connected with back then, and every time I've reread it since. Next, I got on the Harry Potter train. My favorite is book 6. The companion book to 𝐂𝐕, Scumble. So this is about the main character of 𝐂𝐕's cousin, ledge, and he has the power to destroy mechanical things, and he can't control it, so constantly gizmos and gadgets are just tearing themselves apart around him. And it's another coming-of-age book about self-discovery. And I do think that this book helps me kind of get set on the path towards engineering, because that's kind of where this main character's path is going, and I thought it was really cool. Then, fire. This is about a girl with magically fiery red hair who also has some mind control abilities and is severely ostracized because of her mutantness, but then ends up helping save the kingdom with her powers. This is one of the first books that I really loved for the romance coming into that time, and I still adore the romance in this book. It's definitely an enemies to lovers thing, and it's done so fantastically. I still adore rereading this book. And The Flying Troutmans, my favorite book of age 12, which is really weird because it's definitely an adult book. But I don't know, I got into this phase where I was really enjoying reading books aimed at adults around then. I don't know what young 𝐿𝐿e was doing, but I turned out fine in the end. This is about a girl named Hattie, who suddenly has to take care of her niece and nephew as her sister has a mental breakdown. And she takes these two kids on a road trip across the United States to find their lost-long father to take care of them. In the process, bonding with the kids and getting into various wacky hijinks. One of the cool things about this book is it's told kind of stream of consciousness with no quotation marks, and I haven't enjoyed that in any book other than this book, but it's one of the reasons why I love this one. Next we have another adult book, Ender's Shadow. So first I got into Ender's Game, but then I found the spin-off series Ender's Shadow, and I loved it even more. This follows Bean, kind of the sidekick to Ender, you know, the one who was the big hotshot commander who saved the world. And I loved Bean's underdog story of going from a kid literally on the streets to one of the hotshots of battle school. But what I connected with this most when I was an awkward nerdy kid in middle school was that Bean is also an awkward nerdy kid. And seeing his failures of social interaction taught me lessons about how I could better succeed at social interaction, you know, through kindness. And The Host by Stephanie Meyer. I was definitely part of the Twilight craze, but I loved The Host even more. This is a book about an alien invasion with little aliens that invade your brain and mind control you. Yes, the premise is kind of eerily similar to Animorphs. But in this book, our main character is one of those aliens. And this is a book about her learning about humanity and coming to more empathize with them instead of just thinking that she is the superior race, as she makes friends, falls in love, gets into life and death situations, you know. Then The Raven Boys. This is definitely now high school age 𝐿𝐿e. The main character of this book is Blue, a quirky teenager who lives in a house full of psychics. And then she meets a group of boys, the Raven Boys, who are on a quest to find a lost long Welsh king's crypt. This book is eerie in the best way. The characters are awesome, the relationships are awesome, and I cannot stop recommending this book to everyone. I mean, all of these books I kind of recommend to everyone because, of course, they're my favorites. And Finder. Through high school, I worked in a used bookstore, and through that I found some old, slightly less popular books that I loved, and this was the best of those. Finder, the book, takes place in a shared universe called Border Town, which is about a town right on the border between the human world and the Fae world. This town is full of misfits from both worlds trying to build a new mixing, melting pot culture. Sometimes magic will work, sometimes technology will work, and this book follows Orient, a human with a little bit of a mutant ability to find lost objects. So he runs away to Border Town because he's not fitting in with the humans. This book is punky, fun, original, heartfelt, makes me cry every time I read it, makes me smile even more. And now, The Time Traveler's Wife. This is actually getting an HBO show right now, which I am definitely going to watch soon. This book follows Claire and Henry. Henry uncontrollably time travels. Claire is his soulmate. This book follows them falling in love, trying to deal with all of the crazy stuff that happens because of the time travel, just scrambling to keep their lives together and their commitment to each other strong. It is haunting and beautiful. Not a lot of action, but a lot of nice character moments. And then we have Animorphs again! Bet you didn't see that coming, but I did have an Animorphs resurgence where I reread all of the books as a teenager. And I loved them even more than I did when I read them originally at like 9 years old. And then the Stormlight Archive series, my favorite of which is book 2, Words of Radiance. Would you believe that I got started with this series because I saw them in a bookstore and I thought the covers looked interesting? And then I quickly Googled their average Goodreads score to see if they would be any good, and when I saw it, I was like, this is the highest Goodreads score I've ever seen in the wild. And so bought books 1 and 2 immediately. Read them, loved them. This was also my first experience with epic fantasy. I know, what a chunker. And it definitely started a craze that continued with many other books. The main character of book 1 is Kaladin, a man who used to be in the army, but then through a series of unfortunate events ended up a slave. And it's about him reclaiming his identity as he becomes a leader of other slaves as they're forced to fight in this pointless army. There's other things, other characters, other magic, but that's the gist. If you like long fantasy books, definitely pick up the Stormlight Archive. They're the best. Then back to Maggie Stiefvater, the author of the Raven Boys books, with the Scorpio Races. This is about an island that is haunted by magical killer horses. And every year, they harness those horses into a race. We follow 2 characters, a girl who has lived on the island all her life, loves it, but doesn't always love the murder horses part and is trying to get her family out of debt, and a boy who loves the murder horses part, has worked with the horses all of his life, and is desperate to try to win the race this year. It's not super weird, it's not super long, it's not super niche. It's a great book. Be frank with me. This is about a woman who ends up being the nanny for one of her favorite authors. She is nannying a little boy named Frank, who is neurodivergent and is sometimes a little bit of a handful. It's about them coming to understand each other, her better understanding herself and the world because of it. If you're looking for a realistic fiction pick off this list, this is the most realistic fiction I get. Next, Warbreaker by Brandon Sanderson. I think this is my favorite Brandon Sanderson book. We follow a few different characters, but I would say the main one is Ciri, a princess who gets sold away to the enemy kingdom to become the bride of their emperor. There's lots of intercourt politics, there's lots of character development, and of course for Brandon Sanderson, an interesting magic system. If you want to read a Brandon Sanderson, but you don't want to commit to a long series, this is the book for you. It's a standalone. And next we have Falcon by Emma Bull, the writer who wrote Finder from earlier on this list. I read Falcon shortly after reading Finder, and at the time it did not become one of my favorite books. I liked it, but it wasn't like the best ever. But then around age 20, I reread this book, and I fell in love with it a second time. This book has 2 distinct halves. The first half is space opera-y, where we're following a minor prince as he's desperately trying to keep his city and country from disintegrating and being swallowed up by a different galactic empire. The second half of the story, we're following him about a decade later as he's become a hotshot spaceship pilot. I love the emotional journey of this book. I love the way it's written. I love how the 2 halves complement and inform each other, but are kind of 2 distinct books that are both enjoyable on their own. And then we have the Animorphs series for the 3rd time! This time I read lots of the books out loud to my family, and they all also loved it. From my 50-year-old parents to my 10-year-old little brother, they all love these books. Recommended to everyone. Then I fell in love with the Dresden Files books, my favorite of which is book 2, Full Moon. These books follow Harry Dresden, a wizard in modern-day Chicago. He's the one the police call in when they have people that they suspect have been killed by magic, or vampires, or etc. These books are fast-paced, witty, interesting, and the series... At the beginning, you've got these nice, hard-boiled detective, fast-paced adventure stories. Very small-time urban fantasy vibes. And then slowly the series transforms into like an epic fantasy, and it is beautiful. I love the entire series for what it does. Then, the Alpha and Omega books by Patricia Briggs, my favorite of which being Fair Game. This is an urban fantasy series that follows our two leads, Anna and Charles, who are both werewolves. Anna is new to being a werewolf, and the way that she got to be a werewolf was kind of a lot of abuse and bad situation. Charles, on the other hand, has been a werewolf all of his life. Fate flings them together and they are beautiful soulmates, but the series is also about them after they've realized, hey, we're soulmates. Actually getting to know each other and adjusting to each other and becoming a team. Because they become the couple that goes and deals with all of the supernatural problems plaguing the werewolves. They are the detectives, they are the executioners, they are the heroes that go save the day. So every book is them going out on a mission and solving a case together, and it is wonderful. The action, the romance, the vibes, everything. I love these books. And lastly, we have my current favorites, the Murderbot Diaries series, my favorite of which is Book 5, Network Effect. The Murderbot Diaries series follows an android who has hacked its own programming so it doesn't have to follow orders anymore, but still continues to follow orders because it doesn't want to be found out that it's hacked its own programming until situations require it to do otherwise, where it learns the value of friendship, adjusting to free will, figuring out its place in the galaxy, etc. If you're looking for something short and easy to read, most of the books in this series are novellas, and pretty much everyone who reads them loves them. What I love about them is how heartfelt they are, how fast-paced they are, how you really do get to know Murderbot really well, and the delicious subtext and theming interwoven throughout the series as Murderbot has various character development arcs. And those are all my favorite books from when I learned to read till now. What do you think of them? What are your favorite books? Let me know in the comments. If you made it to the end of the video, comment with a stack of books emoji. Subscribe for more videos on Frizzle Fridays, and thank you for watching.